there, my name's Timmy Joe, making videos about computers on the internet. For you, little Billy, for you. I do a case review today of the FSP CMT510, a triple tempered glass RGB explosion of just awesomeness that was sent to me by FSP. They make power supplies, they make coolers, they've been sending me stuff for a while. And we'll talk about this case because I think it's an extremely awesome value and should not be discounted or put in kind of a lower tier of like budgetary status, because this thing competes with the big boys, with the likes of Thermaltake Cooler Master, Corsair. It looks good and it performs well, and there's some cool and interesting things about it. And it can even do something like water cooling, custom water cooling even. We're going to probably do my water-cooled build in this thing with a Core i7 and some things and stuff. I think it's the perfect candidate. I had some other candidates lined up, but after checking some dimensions and stuff like that, this is probably going to be the best case I've got laying around here, unless I'm going to buy something independent. And this actually reminds me a lot of the Threadripper case I had, the Thermaltake View 31, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it does have the dual temper glass on either side. Number two, comes with three fans in the front, fan up here, but not number three. This actually has tempered glass in the front. The View 31 only had this weird acrylic cover. And but the View 31 did have support for rads in the front, rads up here. It didn't have a basement as such. This has a basement, but there's this huge wide opening in the front to allow for massive radiators, even with push-pull fan configuration. This 360 mil rad's going to fit in there, and that's going to be interesting to check out. So we'll open this thing up and we'll play around with some configuration in a little bit. But I built like the solid, the standard, the kind of regular old system in here with their tower cooler, one of their power supplies, which I probably will end up upgrading to a different, maybe they have a 1200 watt they sent me. I didn't put it in here, maybe I should have. Or I have Enermax fan, a little bit nicer of a power supply. This one just doesn't have the extra power connectors for the X299. It's got a 4-pin and an 8-pin, and this thing only comes off with a... anyways, semantics aside, I want to get to what are the downfalls of this case first, because there are so few of them. Number one, the RGB fans are included for the price, which is a very good price, I might add. Let's talk about that real quick. It's is, well, it's not on the internet yet, but there is an Amazon link below. It's supposed to go for $100. Okay, smoking deal. Now the View 31, I've seen it for as low as $100 American. Doesn't come with the RGB fans, doesn't come with that front tempered glass panel, so I see where they're coming from. But in the $100 price range, you still see only one tempered glass panel, or it might come with one or two RGB fans, or limited, whatever. This is a whole package for $100. It's a pretty good deal, as you'll see by the end of it. But yeah, FSP, really good. They got some pretty crazy stuff. Water cooled power supply on there. They were asking if I wanted that. I was like, I don't know if that makes sense for me, but maybe in the future. But yeah, getting back to it, the RGB fans is where I wanted to get at with the price. Yes, it comes with them. Yes, it comes with 4 of them. Yes, they blow air, but they do not blow air effectively. In fact, as you'll see in this B-roll I shot, they're a little bit smaller than most 120 mil fans. So they're not even really 120 mil fans. And they are two wires, 2-prong, going to a header that comes with the case, which is nice. So you can plug in a whack of fans, so like even 3-prong ones, to this case. But basically, these fans, I would say, are more for decoration than anything. They're not meant for high performance cooling. I would not put them in front of a radiator. They're there to look pretty, and they don't do the greatest job of that necessarily either. There's a button on top that just cycles through colors, and then this breathing mode that you see here, and a flashing mode. But there's no way to like plug that into your motherboard and have your motherboard control that, as far as I can tell, not without some sort of crazy modding. But yeah, we got a Core i7 in here, and it's got their little tower cooler on it. They wanted me to include that in this because apparently I've reviewed this before, but now it comes with a white LED instead of a blue if you want it, which I guess complements this build because it's not blowing just a solid blue LED at things. It's kind of, there's a little light in the fans back. You can't even see them. I don't know why. Anyways. A really high performing cooler though, aside from any issues with the lights. It's a big monster. I got one here. It's the Timmy Joe edition, and it's keeping this at 5.2 gigahertz, and it'll blow through a couple Cinebench runs, no problem. So what are the other problems with this case? Well, there aren't very many other ones. Cheap fans, it's kind of there just for decoration, but there's 4 of them and they're there, and it has its own fan controller, which is kind of cool. I wish they were a little bit better quality, but then you're asking for more and more price. And enthusiasts are going to put their own fans in here anyways, so it's kind of a trade-off. But it's nice that they're included. But the only other problem is, if you're just putting a standard build in this, there's a lot of empty space in the front, isn't there? It's like really meant to put a rad in there, because that little wall that's back there, it doesn't have the SSDs. There's 2 SSD sleds there. There's actually 2 other sleds that go in the back tempered glass part that house 3.5-inch hard drives. There's no drive bay or cage to speak of, so you're kind of limited to 2 3.5-inch drives, 2 2.5-inch, or 4 2.5-inch. Littered about things, unless you get creative with how you mount them. Like, there's room in the case to put other hard drives if you really wanted to, like, I don't know, do something in the basement. But it's a nice big basement, and my last little gripe about that is, in its current configuration, without anything in the front or anything in the basement aside from the power supply, we get this. Let's see if we can pick this up on audio. I'm gonna just run a little the test bench in CPU-Z. So I'm going to try and get the best audio. If I don't pick it up here, I'll play it again in a second. But there is an audible tunnel whoosh that I thought maybe was coming. I have the graphics card mounted weird in there. I had the Noctua fans on the graphics card before in there too. I thought it was sucking air and kind of making the tunnel in there in the little basement make some funny noises. But what's actually happening is, because I have my own fan on the motherboard up top in this slot, there's another slot for a fan up here, which is nice. When it starts to ramp up and the CPU fan ramps up, I think it's pulling air from the bottom here and kind of slicing it in the basement and making this like...
Dory, this is not whale. You're speaking like upset stomach.
Sound. It's like whale sound, or really weird, low, but audible sound that would drive me freaking nuts. But I don't think you're buying this if you don't have at least an AIO, because it's not like it's... There are other cases that would necessitate that need. This is an enthusiast case. You're gonna want to put at least a liquid cooler in the front there somewhere. But let's stop. I'm gonna get reset up here. We're gonna shove a couple things in here and just show you around the inside real quick, and then we'll drum up with a conclusion. Okay, so we got thumb screws all around, but what's really nice is there's little caddies on the bottom here. Then when you take this out, it doesn't just fall. There's a little spot that catches it, which is really, really nice. There's also a black mat spot that you can use to grab the glass case around here. It also hides like the rivet points and stuff. But, tempered glass. They haven't really come up with the best ways of handling it. This is usually the way it works. It's not bad. I won't fault it because it's kind of how everyone else does it. The back glass, I want to just mention real quick, is like super tinted. So even though it's there and you'd be worried about your cable management back there, when it's closed, unless you're like looking really hard, you can't see through this glass. So it's kind of there, just there to be nice glass there, which is really cool. And then the front glass, it does come off with thumb screws if you really wanted it to. So let's say I got my pump, and we can put it in the basement here. Whoa! Calm down. And, the pump will fit there. There's a hole here where the pump could come and do some things. And, there's room back here. There's a nice spot here that you could route some piping through. And then this big honkin' rad can fit in here. Real easy. it lines up perfectly. And you could even put your, your 2 other fans here for push-pull and have loads of room in there. And that's what I'm talking about. Now, where are we going to put our reservoir? Well, once the graphics card isn't this, I actually switched this out. I don't know if you noticed. It's got carbon fiber on it now. The Timmy Joe Edition 1070. Once we got the block on it, it'll be a little bit thinner, and we'll move it up here. I have it down there because the heat soak from the graphics card will actually hurt the tower cooler in here when I'm gaming. But once I have the graphics card here and here, probably put the res down here, route some piping. There's going to be just enough room in this thing to do a nice water-cooled build. I think it's going to be nice. Now there's another spot for fan up here. We'll probably end up changing out the fans that are in here for some other fans I have because these just don't perform, and it's not like you can hook them up to a motherboard and vary the speed on them. They're kind of loud. They're kind of obnoxious, unfortunately. But they're there. I mean, for $100, you could get no fans or just some black fans, and this is still a pretty freaking good value with the 3 glass panels and the water cooling support. I think that's awesome. So all in all, the FSP 510, the only case I can think of that's comparable to it is the Thermaltake View 31, which doesn't have a basement. It's a little bit bigger. There's a spot for a rad up here. But a little bit bigger dimensions that might allow for a little bit easier water cooling support in there like that. But all in all, this thing is it's bigger than your average case like this size, the mid tower, because it has that support for water cooling. The tower cooler fits in there no problem. I actually reviewed a case from another manufacturer that looks kind of like this, but you couldn't put this tower cooler in there because it actually would stick out past the case because of the way it was designed. There wasn't forethought for that. This is perfect. Lots of room inside it. All in all, I give it a super thumbs up, and for $100, it's up there rivaling with cases that only have 1 tempered glass panel and no RGB fans from the bigger manufacturers. I couldn't even really find a 3 tempered glass or even a 2 tempered glass case for $100 or less that was anywhere near the quality of this one. So it's a really good deal. It'll be available on Amazon. Links in the description. If you want to pick one up, it should be available within a week or so. I'm Matt Watch, Timmy Joe on Instagram and Twitter. This has been what will be my water-cooled build case, the FSP CMT510. A really nice specimen. Thank them for sending it. And I'm impressed with where cases have come. And there's no sharp edges. Everything's really nice. It's a sturdy case, even with the tempered glass off. Really nice thumb screws and hardware included. USB 3.0. There's 2 of them up there. And all in all, really solid build. I'll see you guys in another video. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go over here.